All right, today we're jumping right into something big. We're exploring what it really takes to make changes in our lives that actually stick. We're not talking about just breaking a habit, we're talking about a deep, profound transformation that starts when you're genuinely ready. And that brings us to the most important question of all. So let's really think about this for a second. What does it actually mean to be truly ready for change? You know, it's so much more than just being sick and tired of the consequences. It's about getting to that point where you're finally prepared to face the underlying pain that's been driving your behaviors all along. It's a huge shift from running away from something to finally moving toward a better life. And to help guide that journey, we're going to look at a coaching approach called the Family WellthCare Framework. The best way to think of it is as a roadmap. It's a clear, supportive guide designed to help you create change that actually lasts. Okay, so the first part of this journey is all about turning inward. And this is going to require a whole lot of honesty, but maybe even more importantly, a ton of self-compassion. This is really where the hard work begins. The very first step, the foundation for everything else, is what the framework calls radical self-honesty. It's all about being willing to name your truths, even the really difficult ones, without letting all that judgment and shame get in the way. And this is what's so cool about this approach. It totally reframes what honesty is. It's not a stick to beat yourself up with. Not at all. It's about building self-awareness through what they call compassionate curiosity. You become an explorer of your own inner world, not a critic. So, what does that actually look like in practice? Check out this quote. Notice there's no judgment there. It's not a statement of failure. It's just a pure, factual observation. I do this when I feel this, and here's the result. Just acknowledging that connection with so much clarity, that is an incredibly powerful first step. Okay, so once you start getting that self-awareness, the framework builds on it with the next foundational piece, relational repair. Because let's be honest, our behaviors don't just happen in a vacuum, right? They're deeply, deeply connected to our relationships and our history. This part is all about connection and relationships. It's about understanding the roles we've learned to play our whole lives. The peacemaker, the rebel, the caregiver. And then realizing that so often our behaviors are really just attempts to protect deep emotional wounds from our past. So take a second and just look at these questions. What kind of patterns do you see in your own life? Thinking about the wounds you might be protecting, well, that can be a huge breakthrough in understanding why you do the things you do. All right, so once we've faced our inner world with some honesty, the framework shifts gears. It moves toward building new skills. This is the part where we start equipping ourselves with the practical tools needed for a new way of living. And that leads us right into the next step, emotional skill building. It makes total sense, right? If our old behaviors were just how we coped with difficult feelings, then to make a change that lasts, we have to learn new, healthier ways to manage those emotions. The whole idea here is developing what we call emotional resilience. Now, this is not about becoming a robot who never feels anxious or sad. It's about building the capacity to experience those emotions, process them, and then move through them without getting completely overwhelmed or falling back on those old harmful coping mechanisms. And the framework gives you a tangible toolkit for this. We're talking about things like breath work to calm your nervous system, somatic practices, which are just ways of connecting with the stress you hold in your body, and reflective practices, like journaling. It's a very hands-on, practical approach. Next up is a piece that is just absolutely vital: structured support. We cannot do this work alone. Real growth and recovery thrive when they happen inside a consistent, safe support system. And it's so important to understand this is not just a nice to have. This framework sees structured accountability, whether that's through a therapist, a coach, or a support group, as an absolutely essential ingredient for change that sticks. It provides the container that makes all the other hard work possible. Now we get to the really transformative part of this whole process. This is where all that inner work starts to create a new reality on the outside. It's about actively rewriting your identity and finding a new sense of purpose. Step E is identity reconstruction. For so long, we might have been living with these limiting stories about ourselves, that we're broken or flawed or not good enough. This step is about intentionally, consciously crafting a brand new, empowering narrative for yourself. I mean, just look at the power of this shift right here. It's not about pretending you're perfect. The change is moving from a fixed, negative state, I am broken, to a dynamic, hopeful process. I am on a journey. That one little shift changes everything. And all of this work leads up to the final step: purpose and integration. Because the ultimate goal isn't just to stop doing something, it's to start living for something. This is about discovering your core values and building a life that feels meaningful and totally authentic to you. So, how does this all come together in the real world? Let's look at a quick example of this framework in action, and then think about what it all means for you. You could almost feel the story here. It started with the courage of radical honesty. That opened the door to repairing important relationships. With that stronger foundation, they could then build new emotional skills, all while being held by that structured support. Each step just built on the last, and it led to a completely new sense of identity and purpose. It's a really powerful testament to the process. Now, looking at that whole framework can feel, well, a little overwhelming. But the key thing to remember is this: you don't have to do it all at once. The journey begins with just a single intentional step. Just one. That's where all the momentum starts. So as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this question. If your journey toward real, meaningful transformation starts with just one small thing, what will that one thing be? Thanks for joining me.